Have you guys heard about what Sony is doing with Kraven the Hunter right now? Standalone film.
I read a blurb that said Kraven was going to be different than he is, very different than he is in the comics.
Yes.
Which I was like, well, if you're not going to include Spider-Man, then yes, duh.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah, the Spider-Man-less spider universe that they have, which is so odd. But
the
yeah,
Venomverse.
Yeah, I guess it is the Venomverse at this
that makes
point.
sense.
Sure. But to get more into more specific detail, the Kraven movie, as it was when Aaron Johnson was doing press for Bullet Train. At the time, and he was asked about Kraven the Hunter, like kind of just get some clues of like what the movie's going to be about. He said, "Oh, it's really exciting. As we all know, Kraven is one of the great Marvel anti-heroes," which I'm like, okay, number one.
Okay.
I think that's. I mean,
all right, not really, but
no, not really. I mean, that one time in the Spider-Man made series where he helped the Punisher, track down the Man Spider. It's like, all right, but I'm pretty sure he's a psychopath that hunts people. But okay, and then he went on to say like, yeah, and Spider-Man's greatest enemy, which I guess that's depending on who you ask. Sure,
Spider-Man's there is no universe where he's Spider-Man's greatest enemy.
So point off again. I was trying to give a little leeway of that one, but the big one that has a lot of people's attention right now, and it's the one I'm like, all right, you guys just don't know what you're doing, or you do know what you're doing, you just don't care, is that Kraven the Hunter, he's a master hunter, but really what he cares about most is the environment, and he's an animal lover. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
He's Captain Planet.
He's a big game hunter. That's his thing. Yeah, maybe they want to have him be Captain Planet.
Maybe he's going to have like 5 rings, and he's going to combine them, and he's going to grow a mullet.
I hope so. No, he'll definitely have the mullet.
I'm predicting that now.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the thing. Or are you done? Was there
no,
more?
that's the thing. That's the thing. They're describing him as an animal lover, and he's going to battle things that are unnatural to the natural world.
Fuck.
All right.
So, yes, Kraven is a big game hunter who runs out of game, so he starts hunting humans and superhumans. That's the Kraven that we know. The Kraven for the movie, since he has to be a hero, cannot hurt animals.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's so frustrating.
Because the people out in this world, they care more about animals than they do about humans.
Yeah, it's true.
So having a guy who hunts animals is not going to fly.
Yeah.
Now, he could hunt poachers. That would be a good way to go.
Even though he's a poacher.
Well, you don't make him a poacher, but you
Exactly.
make him that.
The poacher. Yeah, he's Dexter for poachers.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just that it's frustrating because I think a lot of these characters, especially Kraven, because Kraven was always the one that I felt like he would be a great just Spider-Man villain for a cinematic film. One of my favorite Spider-Man stories, I think a lot of people's favorite Spider-Man stories, and you guys can chime into this, is Kraven's Last Hunt.
Sure.
Which was definitely inspired by stuff like Frank Miller's Batman, Dark Knight Returns, and Marvel wanted to do their own kind of like darker take on a superhero villain relationship. And famously, Kraven's like, all right, I'm done. I'm not messing around anymore. Captures Spider-Man, wants to prove to him that he's even better than Spider-Man, pretends to be Spider-Man, is better than him, and then he's satisfied, and he puts a shotgun in his mouth, and he blows his brains out.
Right.
Which I know you're not going to do that for a film, but at the same time,
Well, you could have him, kill himself. That you could do.
Sure.
But also you have to consider that story, Kraven's Last Hunt, is built on the backs of the two of them having a long history together.
True.
So you know, as these movies tend to do, because they want to jump out of the gate with something, Batman v Superman, instead of realizing like this only works if you build it up over time. Coming straight out with something like that. I mean, I guess you could do it if it was a whole movie about their history, and then coming down to that. But
it's doable. But ever since like Marvel started taking off, there's been every other like cinematic universe that's based off a comic book is trying to rush to their Avengers level stuff.
Yes.
And that's what they're trying to do now. Like they want to like have a Venomverse without Spider-Man, which is super bizarre. And then they want to start introducing Morbius, and they wanted to do this now with Kraven. Like they just want to get to the good stuff without doing any of the hard work.
Yes.
And I understand that they don't want to have a villain as the main character in the film. Why not at this point?
Yeah.
I think that would actually be like a really bold decision. Like they messed up with Venom and Carnage, but there's nothing to stop them from saying like, you know what, we're going to do something super different you've never seen before, and we're going to embrace an evil character being the primary point of contact the entire way through.
You would think they would go like, how much money did Joker make?
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, well let's go with that.
Yeah. That's the thing. And no, to your point, Vanny, and as you just brought up, Martin, I'm surprised Sony aren't like, listen, Warner Brothers, they're having a weird time right now, to
Yeah,
say,
right.
to say the
Weird
least.
time.
But
don't even want to jump on them.
yeah.
Ezra who?
Yeah, I know exactly. But
Amber who?
yeah. Two big movies with two very controversial people in them. Yeah. I mean, one is easy probably to deal with, the other one not so much. But you would think they would at least look at one of their biggest successes in the last few years, which is Joker. Depending how you feel about it, it's a divisive movie, but it was a commercial success.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it definitely embraced the darker aspects of a comic book character where it was rated R, it was disturbing, and it's like, why couldn't then Sony say, like, okay, well, let's do that approach with Kraven? Like, maybe it's not so much Last Hunt because it's built on all that history of Spider-Man, but a Toasty, I forget, you give yourself a shout out. It was yesterday on my stream. They did a whole thing where, what if they kind of had it like it's inspired by The Predator? Where Kraven is literally, he's like, I'm bored with hunting animals. I want to hunt superhumans.
That makes perfect sense.
If you can't use Spider-Man, which again is frustrating, but why don't you send him after like a kind of like a wannabe superhuman team? Yeah. And like my idea was something like Superior Foes of Spider-Man, where he's hunting people like the Beetle or Speed Demon or Boomerang, Shocker. I think that would be really fun. They're like, we don't know what, like they're doing a heist or something, a mission. They barely have it together, but then all of a sudden they're being picked off one by one by this crazy guy in South America somewhere.
That'd be a great way to introduce him.
Let's talk about Spider-Man since all these guys are his villains. For Spider-Man 4, just briefly, like who would you like to see him go up against in the next movie? If anyone in particular in mind.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. You know what? I really love the whole Moreland story.
Oh, okay. Which is also.
Are you familiar?
I know
with
Moreland. Yeah, he's the one that.
That's like who
the magical guy.
Hunts spider totems.
That's
but
right.
that character of Ezekiel, who's like Peter, like an older Peter Parker, who was who breaks down his whole thing of going like, you're part of this whole totem system of animals. Have you noticed how so many of your villains are based on animals?
Right.
And you start going, shit, yeah, Dr. Octopus and the Vulture and all these.
Rhino
and
stuff.
It was this whole like deep dive breakdown where normally a writer gets on and they do this, they're like, I'm going to change everything. And I was like, this is interesting because he dove into it and brought up all these things, but it didn't change anything that happened before.
I guess I'm kind of like the opposite of you, where, now that, the board's kind of been reset to a degree, I mean, literally reset, and he is just so alone at this point where no one knows, and people know who Spider-Man is, they know who Peter Parker is. I would like if they kind of return him more to a street level where he's hanging out with people like Daredevil and going up against like the Kingpin and things.
Yeah.
That was my choice.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that would work.
But eventually, I think that would be kind of just interesting. Like, hey, like, he needs another father figure, and plus he's probably really depressed, and he needs a friend. And Daredevil's the guy to say like, hey, listen, this you can operate here, but just know that there's this major power player, and it's Wilson Fisk. So yeah, chap. So Spider-Man's future is bright. Maybe not some of his supporting villains, but we'll see.
Spider-Man himself will be fine.
I think so.
Yeah.